Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Made it through another week. Praise the Lord. I have a kind of an interesting, informative, maybe even entertaining video for you as I'm driving home today. And you know what? A lot of the times when I do these videos, whether it's like a drive and talk or when the weather's warmer, a walk and talk, I kind of question and I say, well, should I really do this? Should I really say this? I'm not sure. But then inevitably something happens where kind of says to me, okay, I guess so. Maybe I should talk about this, because either other people are to a certain extent, or they may not hit the nail on the head, but they come really close to what I'm going to talk about. And it just kind of inspires and encourages me. So before I get into that, though, what I'm going to talk about today, some people have asked me about an update for Pastor Faircloth. The only thing I'm willing to say publicly is that he is unfortunately back in the hospital. For anybody that saw the video, the live stream, the very quick live stream from yesterday, and that the main concern is his blood pressure. They need to get his blood pressure up and keep it up into normal parameters. That is the main concern, medically speaking, is his blood pressure. So that's all I'm going to say publicly about that. His wife can give updates and probably will, I would imagine, Sunday morning at ignitedchurchlife.com and explain more, talk about more if she wants to. But I'll leave that up to her if she chooses to do that. But all I'm going to talk about is, or say about that, is his blood pressure is the main concern. So please pray that his blood pressure can stay up, basically. Not too high, but within normal parameters, because right now it's very, very low from what I understand. And that's something that's of main concern. So anyway, that's that update. But now what I'm going to talk about is art imitating life, or maybe even possibly in the very near future, life imitating art. And I came across something that I began to check out called 0 Day on Netflix. And when I first read about what this thing was, this limited mini-series, like 6-episode event kind of thing, I was like, wow, this is really intriguing. I said, I'm very interested to see what this whole thing is about. So I checked it out, and I gotta tell you, man, like I said, art imitating life, or maybe even life imitating art in the very near future. This thing, I'm going to give you spoilers for people who might watch it or might check it out later on down the road or whatever. I doubt anybody really will, but I'm going to give you spoilers. So if you don't like spoilers, maybe you don't want to listen to this. But me personally, I don't mind spoilers because it doesn't bother me when it comes to like television shows or movies or whatever else. I don't really care. Because it's not that important in the big scheme of things. So it's just like, go ahead and tell me. I really don't care. And then I'll check it out myself, and then I will assess it, and, and then just, I'll know what to look for then, I guess, because I'm not one for surprises, really, because most of the time when surprises happen in my life, it's not always good. So sometimes, but most of the time it's not always good. So I'm not real big on surprises. I would just kind of rather know in advance, kind of thing. That's me. But for people that just like, oh no, I don't want to hear anything about it because I want to check it out for myself, fair enough. But here's why I call this Art Imitates Life. Because in this show, it's very intriguing, because the very first thing that happens is a cyber attack. Okay? Imagine that, right? We've been warned about it. It's been talked about. It's happened, so forth and so on, whether they want to admit it or not. That's the very first thing that happens. But unfortunately, this is not benign. This cyber attack in the show is similar to the event of, in September 2001, where thousands of people die. If memory served, I think they said a total of 3,402 people died because of this cyber attack. Because the cyber attack is so horrendous that not only does it take down airplanes, imagine that. Art imitates life, life imitates art, right? It's unreal. Not only does it do that, but they don't really show that, but you hear news reports of it and so forth. But the attackers literally changed the subways to the point where they're on the same track, so they cause head-on collisions. And then of course, you have a train crash as well. Unreal. It's just like in your face, right? In your face. And in the process of this, unfortunately, it's fictional, of course, but unfortunately 3,402 people die. And so they call it 0 day because of the event, right? Well, of course, the nation is reeling. And the interesting thing about it is when they take the phones down, the hackers bring them back up for just a short period of time. And there's a message that says, this will happen again. So because everybody that has a cell phone, a smartphone, or whatever else gets that same message, then everybody's freaking out because they're demanding who did this, why did they do it, mostly who, and since it's going to happen again, everybody's on pins and needles, right? So the president, who's played by the actress Angela Bassett, people don't know who she is, Bassett or whatever, she's an African-American actress, but anyway, she's playing the president, okay? But the interesting thing about it, and the thing that really intrigued me the most, is there is a former president, President Mullen, who is actually tasked with starting the 0 Day Commission. And now this is what intrigues me about this, is because this guy, this character, President Mullen, the way that he responds and the actions that he takes in dealing with the aftermath of the cyber attack is kind of what I would expect our current president to do. Now, the thing that really intrigues me the most is the former president, played by President Mullen, that is tasked with, heading up this commission, is played by Robert De Niro. Now, the reason that's interesting is because in real life, at least that's what they lead us to believe. This is what happens, this is what has been shown in public or whatever. Robert De Niro basically hates our current president and is very angry and hateful with his rhetoric. But the character that he's playing, I understand he's an actor nowadays, I get that. But the character that he's playing, the way he responds is kind of the way I would expect our current president to respond if this were to happen in reality. So, and he plays a character that appears to be very honorable, has integrity, left at with a high approval rating, as the former president. And the only reason he didn't run for re-election or reselection, whatever, but re-election is because of a family tragedy that occurred. So he decided that it would be best if he would just take care of his family and be a private citizen. But he's tasked with this because he's considered to be a man of honor and integrity, and he would do the right thing and so forth. And, he was former military intelligence and he has experience. He's a lawyer and so forth and so on. But what happens here is because he can't get the answers as quickly as he wants, and he's under the gun, well, and the people are demanding results before the next attack occurs, he begins to do what basically we're seeing happen now, whether people agree or disagree. But if they really, really take a step back and look at what's going on, he begins to, because the 0-day commission is basically the law of the land now, he suspends the Constitution, due process, habeas corpus, you name it. Constitution is suspended, and the president kind of supports it, doesn't declare any kind of lockdowns or anything of that right away, but is supportive of it because they need answers, and what they're doing isn't getting the answers. The very first thing they want to do is they want to blame the bear, of course. And at first their evidence is leading them to that, but the further the investigation goes, it kind of leads more to a homegrown cyber terrorist kind of thing, and a loudmouth blowhard, basically, that has a podcast similar to like a Nick Fuentes, if people know him, who he is, or Joe Rogan. Not quite as obnoxious as like an Alex Jones, but similar to that, where this guy wants to hold government accountable for everything or whatever, but with his rhetoric, he could basically incite things. And so these homegrown cyber attack terrorists, for lack of a better term, they appear to be the ones responsible for this whole thing, not a foreign government, not anybody else. But by the time they find this out, and the way they do it is, like I said, they suspend the Constitution. No Fourth Amendment, no illegal search and seizure, no warrants are necessary. They just bust into people's homes, arrest people in the middle of the night that are suspected. Like I said, they don't need a warrant. They don't even need proof. They don't even need evidence. It's an open investigation, and they're hunting terrorists, basically, on the homeland. So they bust into this one room, they bust into this one house, and they arrest the wrong person, a 17-year-old kid, where they were looking for his brother, and they arrest him instead because they go into the wrong room. It's like, yep. How many times have we heard something like that happening before, right? So, anyway, it's just crazy how this is just, I can see the potential where this could literally happen in this country. I could see the potential. So anyway, as it continues on, the investigation continues on, they wind up arresting the loudmouth, podcaster there. And because they're not getting, he's very cocky, he's very arrogant, because they're not getting out of him what they want to get out of him, well, then they go to the enhanced interrogation techniques, which you're not supposed to be able to do, right? But like I said, everything's suspended. There are no constitutional rights. Everybody is kind of like when they enacted the Patriot Act after September 2001. Next thing you know, everybody's a suspect. Everybody's a criminal. Everybody's getting patted down. Everybody's getting searched. Everybody's getting wanted, whatever, right? Same thing here. Until they can get answers and until they can get results, well, in the process, everything goes. But in the process of all of this, like the cell phone said, or like the message on the cell phone stated, this will happen again. And somewhere within like the first 2 weeks of the investigation, it sure enough does. But this time, they hit the banks. Interesting, right? So this time, they hit them where it hurts. They hit the financial institutions. They take down the banks. And guess what? It just happens to occur on a Friday. Not necessarily a holiday weekend, but a Friday. Just like the X-Files warned about, I don't know how many years ago now, it must be going on 10 plus, It'll probably begin on a Friday. The banks will announce some type of banking action, taking the systems offline for the weekend. That's exactly what happens here. They take this, but the people are not patient. They want their money. Why? Because they don't have any. Because the banks have all their cash, have their money. And the stores, they can stay open, but it's cash only. And they even write it on the doors or is painted on the windows or whatever, cash only for all of these different stores. Because that's all they can do, because the system's down. They've been hit again. And so people are freaking out. So they bust the windows open that say cash only, and they're trying to break into the banks. One bank manager is dumb enough to actually open the door. Everybody floods into the banks, but guess what? They can't get their money. So there's chaos, because of this attack. And now it's happened twice. So now they're really under the gun, to find out, well, if it's not a foreign government and it's these homegrown cyber terrorist attackers or what have you, cyber attacks that are conducting the cyber attacks, where are they? And how do we catch them? And that's the predicament they're in, because of the generation that we have now, and the upcoming generation, just about anybody could be a hacker. Okay. It doesn't take much, apparently. And so they can bring down the system. And, you get people that are angry enough at the government, angry enough at the system, angry enough at whatever else. And, they have the ability, they have the capabilities of doing this. Teenagers, young adults, whatever. People who were in government before, disgruntled employees, whatever the case may be. Anybody could do this. Kind of like in the 2007 movie, what is it? Live Free or Die Hard. It was a former government employee that basically conducts what they refer to as the fire sale, taking the whole system down on 4th of July weekend. A disgruntled government employee that basically set up the system, so he knew what he was doing. So if he set it up, he could take it down, right? So I'm thinking back to all of these things. And as I'm watching this, I'm just intrigued by all of these things that are happening, all the things that we have heard about, are hearing about, the things that went on before with all the train derailments, and now all the things with the planes. I don't think any incident has happened today that I'm aware of with any planes, not that I'm aware of anyway. But remember all the train derailments, and then that pretty much stopped. And now we have the planes. So instead of planes, trains, and automobiles, it's like trains, planes, and automobiles, right? And even then, there was a movie that came out called White Noise, also on Netflix, where they showed a train derailment in that film that actually took place near East Palestine, Ohio, where the first one took place at, if people recall. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, right? So, art imitates life. And this life could be imitating art here, possibly. The potential exists. There's no doubt about that. So I'm just thinking to myself, man, what timing of all of this? This is just crazy, that they release it now. And then the characters, the actors that they put in this thing, I'm just like, wow, man, this is like in our face. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is so surreal that they're doing this, and most people don't get it. They won't get it because they're too far gone into the delusion of everything that's being shoved down their throat and into their head, with all of the media and all of the reports and just information overload. People won't be able to see the forest through the trees. So if this were to occur, I would venture to guess that most people, it would completely catch them off guard. They wouldn't know what to do. It'd be the last thing in the world that they would expect, even though all the warning signs are there, like I said previously with the train derailments and now the stuff with the planes. And I guess the next thing to go is automobiles. I don't know. We've already heard about some bus attacks and things of that nature, not so much in the U.S., but in the Middle East and whatnot. I don't know. I mean, it just seems like that's next on the list to me. You know, the self-driving cars and everything, like they showed in the movie Leave the World Behind, produced by the Obamas. You know, you can't make this stuff up, man. They just throw it in our face. You know, that's what they do. They just throw it in our face. So, as I'm watching this, I'm thinking about something else that I had seen called Paradise, that is actually on the Hulu channel right now. And this is interesting as well. Again, similar, except this really got me thinking about the possibilities of what could be happen. I mean, say for instance, we're in the internal revolution, the long prophesied internal revolution, just for argument's sake. Say it's begun. You know, now is there open, you know, violence against the government? Not necessarily, but the rhetoric is there for sure. Okay? The rhetoric is most definitely there. And we have it's coming up on the third year anniversary, or, you know, I wouldn't call it an anniversary, but you know what I'm saying, since the beginning of Russia-Ukraine. So that's the 22nd or something. Tomorrow, I think it is. Maybe it's the 24th, whatever. But it's really, really close. And I always watch February for personal reasons anyway. I've mentioned that in the other channel. If people remember, if not, don't worry about it. It's not important. Just for personal reasons, like I said. But I actually got a phone call yesterday from a friend who was, you know, watching this, not this show I'm talking about, but watching February too. And then he sent me a screenshot earlier today. I don't have access to this, but apparently covert intel from HalTurnerRadioshow.com that basically said fleeing the country. You know, it's like, fleeing the country? Like, who's fleeing the country? What country? What are you talking about? I have no idea. And so that kind of inspired me even further to do this. But then the first thing this morning, before I get to the other show, you know, I'm backtracking a little bit here. First thing this morning, when I looked at my phone, not first thing this morning, but when I looked at my phone, this morning, the first thing that popped up, I should say, was a video from Patrick Humphrey talking about how the inmates have literally taken over the asylum in New York State, where apparently because correctional officers have gone on strike, that the inmates have taken over. Now, I don't know what the result of that is now, but supposedly at several different institutions, that's exactly what was going on in New York, according to his report. And so I'm looking at this, I'm thinking about what I was watching, and then this other show called Paradise, where in this show, it's kind of like an adult version of the Truman Show, kind of in a way, but it's more tragic. But these people, the reason they call the show Paradise is because they have kind of created their own paradise, but it's within a cave. And because what happens is a virus or a plague is released on the earth, or whatever the case may be, and lots of people die, and those people that are sick, unfortunately, they get left on the surface. And, the elite, the important people, the rich people, those that are considered more valuable in society, they resort to their underground, or not underground, well, I guess it is, yeah, like their underground bunker cave kind of thing. But what they've done is they've created their own utopian-like society where you have, they literally make a sun rise and set, and they have night, they have day. It's just like the earth, except they're living in a cave. And everybody forgets that they're living in a cave because they've created this utopian-like society. There's not any weapons. There's not anything. Now there's a president, but not for long, because the president gets murdered. There goes utopia, right? The president gets murdered inside his own residence. So there goes utopia. So now you have a murder investigation, going on, and they have no idea who did this. And and in the process, the elite, those that are in charge of everything, it appears they wanted him taken out because he didn't always follow orders, because there is always somebody else. Somebody else is always the boss. There's always somebody above, even presidents, okay? You get it, So there's always somebody else. And so apparently they wanted him gone because he was causing too much trouble. And then the vice president is a weakling, so they can control him more, right? So, but here's the intriguing thing about this show, okay? What is the number of the current president in office, right? Think about that for a second. Pretty obvious, all right? Well, at the funeral, at the memorial service or whatever, this president is he's played by James Marsden. I don't know if people are familiar with him or not. But anyway, kind of like a JFK kind of character. He's a younger president, he's ethically and morally challenged, let's put it that way. But overall, a decent man as far as presidents go, trying to lead people and trying to do the right thing for the people, okay? Which is probably why they took him out, right? So, but at his funeral or his memorial service, they have enshrined like a high school basketball jersey, I guess, because he's a pretty athletic dude or whatever, and just looking back on his life. And the number of that jersey just happens to be 47. Of any of the numbers they could have chosen to put on that jersey, it just happens to be number 47. And like I said, and they murder the guy. Okay? So I'm like, wow. Cannot make this stuff up. So these shows are very, very intriguing, very interesting. And I mean, say for instance, all right, think about this. What if the vice president in reality now actually had to take over for whatever reason, okay? That means we get eyeliner boy, J.D. Vance, right? With his wife, with all of their Hindu gods, bringing all that garbage in, right? All these fake, false gods and idols and everything. That's what we would get, right? Eyeliner boy with the with the Hindu gods and goddesses and everything. Think back to the Republican National Convention where that Hindu priestess witch got up there and started praying to her god Warigu or whatever, and nobody said anything. Remember all those gutless wimps, in the audience, all of those, so-called Christians, more like Sinos, Christian in name only. Everybody quiet. Everybody showing reverence as this Hindu witch priestess gets up there and prays to her god Warigu or whatever. And nobody says anything. Not any of these so-called Republican Christians, whatever else. At the National Convention. Nobody says not one person stood up for Jesus. Not one person said, Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. Jesus Christ is our God. We don't worship any other gods. We don't acknowledge any other gods. Jesus Christ is our God. Not one. No one said anything. They just sat there with their, sat on their hands, just in awe and reverence as this creature, basically worships their fake, false Hindu god, and nobody says anything. So imagine if that were to occur and they bring in all these Hindu gods and goddesses, Vishnu and Shiva and Kali and whatever else. See, I have to think this way because I think the predictive programming is out there with these shows. And I'm not saying it's going to happen anytime in the very near future. I have no idea. Most of the time it doesn't. It takes months or years or whatever. But at the same time, it's just interesting to me how they put this stuff out there right at this particular time with everything going on. with everything that we're hearing about all the time, shoved down our throats, like I said, inserted into our brains practically, information overload, all kinds of stuff all the time. And now you have these shows out there, and it's quite amazing to me, with everything that's being reported. And there was one last thing I think I was going to mention. I was going to end this thing. Let me think if I can think of it right now. It was one other show or movie, and it escapes me right now. Oh, I know. Oh, last thing. People want to know what's coming. Either research the French Revolution, do some reading or whatever, research the French Revolution, or watch Napoleon, or, one of the movie versions or play of Les Miserables, because that's what they're talking about now. They're talking about the French Revolution, 1789. That's the threat. That's the warning now that they're putting out there. It's like, another French Revolution, coming around into America. So that's what makes me think about the internal revolution that Dimitri Duduman, talked about so long ago. If it hasn't begun, and I don't know if it has or hasn't, I mean, with the rhetoric, it's possible, but I don't see any open fighting against the government as of yet. But it could happen very quickly with all that hateful rhetoric out there now, talking about a French Revolution and taking over, and, a revolution calling or whatever, and how many people might join in on this thing and what they might do. People get angry enough, they get desperate enough, there's no relief as far as the shortages, the prices, food shortages, the prices on things, inflation continues to go through the roof. People can't afford to live. It won't take much. It won't take much. And a cyber attack is very, very possible, even probable in the near future with everything that's going on now. So I just mention these things not to promote any of these shows or whatever, I'm just telling you what I see, what I'm watching, because it's intriguing to me, it's interesting to me, and you can learn from it in a way. I mean, because they kind of put their playbook out there, say, hey, this is what we have planned. Now you see if you can stop it, or hey, we're giving you a chance, to get prepared, to get ready for it. Or are you just going to sit here and be entertained by it? Or are you going to take action? It's almost like a dare in a way, and the shows they put out there, and the movies for I don't even know how many years, that, I mean, it's like history repeats itself. Art imitates life. Life may very, very soon imitate art. We shall see on that. And in certain ways, it kind of already has with the trains and the planes. So, I don't know. Just be ready. That's all I can say. Be ready. Expect the unexpected. All the things I've said before, sound like a broken record, I know. But I just wanted to put this out there, to just kind of, I don't know, give people something to think about, pray about, prepare for, be ready for. I mean, a lot of these things, there's nothing you could really do about much of any of it. I mean, we made our bed, now we're going to have to lie in it. I mean, it is what it is in a lot of different ways. But there are still some things that people can do to be ready, as much as possible, so they're not completely caught off guard. And that's where people have to be spiritually ready more than anything. Go to the Holy Spirit, ask the Lord, it's like, what do I need to do? What should I do? What can I do? Well, I mean, seriously. And, and keep that full armor of God on, put it on, keep it on. Don't ever take it off. We're going to need it. We're definitely going to need it. Try to, stay with the people that'll support you and help you, and do the best they can, and you do the best you can to help them. And I don't know, because we're in for a fight. we're in for a battle. Some of us, I should say, not some people, some of us will be in a battle to fight for our lives, you know. I mean, I don't know if you heard about the 70 Christians beheaded in Nigeria. Unreal, you know. Lots of craziness, lots of violence, lots of chaos, lots of horrific things happening throughout the world. Just because it's not happening in the U.S. as much, it's all over the world. It's happening everywhere, and it's just a matter of time before it comes to our shores. So get ready for it. All right, I think that's all I have. I hope you all have a good and blessed weekend. Oh man, it's warming up already. It's going to be warmer. Sun's out. No trails in the sky right now. We got through this last bout of bad weather, freezing temperatures and all that jazz. But I know that's not the case a lot of other places. But it's warmer now. It's 35. That's a heat wave in comparison to what it's been. So, but get ready for that next bout. I guess Weatherman Plus Mark put out a video earlier talking about the next bout and the next freezing. How should I say it? We'll just say the next deep freeze. We'll just call it that. All right. I think that's all I have now. Y'all take care. Have a good weekend. Be blessed. Bye-bye.